An ethics complaint filed in Woonsocket. We'll talk to the person who filed it. John Ward is the former city council president in Woonsocket. He's filed a letter of complaint, an ethics complaint, if you will, against the sitting mayor of Woonsocket, Lisa Baldelli Hunt, for her ad hoc hiring of a ball club to sweep the streets this summer. We'll ask him why, how, what, and talk about that dynamic. Although it seems like a small issue monetarily, it may be a window on a modus operandi that might concern the citizens. Dan York, State of Mind, welcome in. Thanks so much. Much to do. To the rundown we go. Yeah, that's what one superintendent said she did or had or went through or something. And you know, it's just not the right tone. We'll talk about it in just a second. This might be a surprise to a lot of you because Gina Raimondo had so much money, and now 38 Studios is becoming a center of the governor's race, at least for this cycle of advertising back and forth. We'll analyze that for a couple of minutes, and then we'll talk about Buddy Cianci and the charge against him from his opponent and the request by his opponent. This is in Westerly, and this is strange, and it's a sign of the times, no doubt. And guess what? Yep, it's that time of year where they drop the puck and get everything going. Let's dig in if we can. First item, lost sleep. Yeah, I picked this up right away because when I heard this radio audio today from our newsroom gathered on WPRO, I thought, wrong tone. It all stems from this headline, the Providence Journal, threat target schools, 3 Rhode Island communities. Seems some knucklehead wrote an anonymous letter not only to Johnston and mentioned Cranston and Warwick in his line of fury, but also schools throughout New England have been getting this kind of an anonymous letter, which threatens the well-being of kids, especially in elementary schools. And you know, not fresh, not too far off from Sandy Hook. We react to these things, and we didn't need Sandy Hook to react to them, right? Sean Daly kind of capsulized the day-to-day.
It was anything but business as usual this morning as another school day began in Johnston, Cranston, and Warwick. On a random Wednesday in October, it felt a bit like another sad step toward the end of America's innocence. Warwick Mayor Scott Avedisian tells us police officers are in all of the city's 30 schools. He says there's never been anything like this. In Cranston, Mayor Alan Fung and the city's police chief and school superintendent all tried to reassure the community that officials are doing everything they can to protect Cranston students.
And I would imagine that's true, and I think the response by all 3 communities, Johnston, Cranston, Warwick, has been appropriate. By the way, FYI, I don't want to start this conversation off this ridiculous anonymous letter because I don't want to give it any kind of credit. But I've been telling you for months, and I was exhausted telling you, that our reaction to Sandy Hook was without the kind of, I think, police enforcement reaction we should have had, which is to talk seriously about having an armed police officer in all of our elementary schools where allegedly all of our precious cargo is. But an anonymous letter, while serious and while response is absolutely necessary, is an anonymous letter. And I was a little bothered by something the Cranston superintendent said, caught by our radio microphones.
I was in constant communication yesterday with the other 2 superintendents, and we decided that we would open, we'd have a normal day, and that we were going to keep everybody safe, and we're going to proceed the way we always do. As an educator, I never thought I'd have to deal with this, so I find that a little disconcerting. I certainly didn't sleep well last night.
Dr. Lunston, we don't need to know that you didn't sleep well last night. Leadership is about, being stand-up. You don't admit that you're having a sleepless night over an anonymous letter. Let the parents have their sleepless night. You're supposed to be a rock. I know you're not trained in security. I understand that, but it's a new time. And you just don't need to leave that kind of gaping hole in the leadership model. You're not a law enforcement officer, I understand. And I know you want to commiserate because that's a new form of leadership in America today, but we don't need to be, doing any form of thumb-sucking in the situation. Just do your job, be confident, talk about how confident you are in the response, and get a good night's sleep. Next item. Yeah, he is. Very interesting. Here's a headline from WPRI.com. Financial edge over Raimondo? Well, it's a little bit more than an edge. Because of matching funds, the taxpayer giving Alan Fung about $1 million plus. That's how much he has now to spend through the general election. Gina Raimondo, on the other hand, spent just about 80% or more of her near $5 million take, all in the primary. Now, is this going to be a classic case where Gina Raimondo is in a position where she was the financial leader and now she plays the financial underdog? Well, it seemingly is exactly what's going on. I got an email today, you know, the campaign solicitation email. I'm on the list somehow, and it talks about how she's the underdog in a single-digit race, financially, anyway. It's funny how the tables turn and what public financing can do if you play your cards right. Interestingly enough, as we go to the next item in the governor's race, the 38 Studios thing is coming back as a campaign football. Alan Fung's camp, which knows no boundaries and is a little bit of a circus act, puts this ad together. Give it a watch.
38 Studios. An insider deal. A bankruptcy. Wall Street investors took a risk and went bust. But Gina Raimondo wants to use our money to bail them out. A former Wall Street financier herself. Raimondo's looking out for Wall Street, not Main Street. Now Governor Chafee and Raimondo have rehired the same financial advisor who is being sued for getting us into this disaster. Money, deals, politics. Raimondo and Wall Street win and taxpayers lose.
Well, it's pretty tough. Now listen, Gina Raimondo is not a Wall Street player. She's a venture capitalist, but she's not a Wall Street player. But Alan Fung doesn't mind hyperbolizing that situation. He does make a point, though. She does support paying continuously the $12 million a year up until the time that the 38 Studios bond is paid off. Raimondo responds with this look you in the eye response.
I'd have seen Alan Fung's ad attacking me over 38 Studios. I fought 38 Studios from the beginning. Alan Fung didn't. And we disagree over what to do next. Alan wants to default on the debt. None of us like it, but that would damage our credit rating, cost us millions more, and lead to cuts in education and public safety. We can't attract manufacturing jobs if Alan Fung hurts our credit rating. As governor, I'll never let that happen.
You know, there's a real argument between these two on what we ought to do with this money. And so it may just resurface as a pretty viable campaign debate. You know, my radio phones were kind of quiet about it today because you're exhausted over 38 Studios. But the truth is that you've got enough equity, you've got enough understanding about how this whole thing works to be able to figure out who's, telling the truth in these ads. Bottom line is, I don't know that Fung really penetrates Gina Raimondo because she didn't support 38 Studios. She does support cleaning up the mess. At the same time, Fung really didn't have to say anything as the mayor of Cranston back in 2010 about this thing because it was a statewide matter. So I call it a draw. A lot of money will be spent probably on what will be a draw on 38 Studios. Now, speaking about a lot of money, let's go to this one. This cracks me up. Employee contributions. Yeah, here's a headline at 630WPR.com from the AP. CNC won't return contributions from city workers. I guess the AP reports that back on September 17th, when asked about whether he'll take money from city employees, Buddy Cianci said, I haven't and I don't plan to. He says today that he somewhat misspoke, that he won't take contributions from city employees until after his ban on taking money from city employees will start after he's elected. He says, look, $50, $100 contributions aren't going to move me. I guess there are a couple, 3 dozen contributions that add up to $18,000 from city employees. And, I've always thought, what does a city employee do if they're preempted from contributing to a candidate? They have a First Amendment right to contribute to candidates, right? But Jorge Elorza has demanded that Buddy Cianci return that money while pointing out that Buddy Cianci is just perpetrating his corrupt way of doing business. Jorge doesn't really want him to return that money because he wants to put up ads that says he took money from city employees. What a bad guy. I think most people look at this and say, yeah, you've made a lot out of Buddy Cianci's reputation and resume, but 18 grand from 20 some odd employees, 30 some odd employees, isn't going to change the way people think about him. At the same time, maybe Buddy wants to rethink taking at least $1,000 contribution from one Richard Bakari. I checked my notes to make sure I've got the name right. Yes, Mr. Bakari is now in federal court charged with a $50,000 bribe scheme for one of those stories, the Three Stooges and the like, that happened in North Providence. Now, he's innocent until proven guilty, but sometimes when you're running for office with a corruption resume you're trying to leave behind you, you probably shouldn't take $1,000 contributions from guys who are jammed up in federal court. That's a different story. And what else do we have real quick here? This is a conversation that we'll have on a show. Transgendered policy, meaning we got to examine this with some guests from the Westerly School Committee. They put a headline up here in the Westerly Sun. There's a transgender policy coming here, and that's kind of weird to me. It seems they have one student that inspired the idea that they need a transgendered policy, and that is about the locker rooms, the bathrooms, and which teams they can play on. It used to be, maybe it's the old days and shouldn't be, but it used to be you'd say, you know what, the majority rules, or let's build or invest our taxpayer monies in facilities that reflect on what most people are doing. Now, 1 or 2 or 3 kids who identify as a different gender upset the entire apple cart. I don't mean to be insensitive about this because I'm evolving as well, but it seems strange to me that somebody who feels like they're a boy when they are a girl, or vice versa, put a lot of people in that locker room or that team in a place of discomfort as well, and I wonder where their argument is represented. We'll see. And finally, it is that time of year. The Bruins are up. What do we got? Got something here, don't we?
Yeah, it's always the same. You always get the nerves and the butterflies, and it's always exciting to be back with the fans in a home opener.
I think we're all really excited to get down to it and see how we're going to line up against other teams and have some fun.
Best time of year. Best time of year. Hockey starts. Baseball playoffs are set with the Orioles and the Royals and the Cardinals and the Giants. The Pats are back and winning. The Giants too. Soak it up, and you can still get around to golf in. All right, ethics, Woonsocket, next. Stay with us. All right, it seems like a small issue, and it is financially, but it could be a window on a bigger problem. Here's the headline, the Woonsocket Call, that comes from the work of Jim Hummel. I mentioned it on the rundown the other day. Here's a short synopsis. I think you can get the picture. Lisa Baldelli Hunt, the mayor there, hired a bunch of boys on the baseball team to clean the streets in Woonsocket.
Did you advertise those positions? How did the word get out? How did they know about
No, it was not advertised in the newspaper, if that's what you mean, no.
Right. And so, we had heard this. Your son and a lot of his baseball team was involved.
A good portion of them were baseball players, yes.
What about the perception of that the mayor's son got a job that maybe a lot of other kids maybe didn't know about and could have gotten and would want to work, that he wound up getting that job?
I did think of that when he indicated that he would like to do it too, but I felt as though, why discourage someone, especially a youth, from wanting to work, and when nobody else was left out of the equation.
Yeah, but how many people knew about it?
The amount of people that knew about it were the people who I just happened to be speaking with one day at a function.
It's amazing to me that Lisa Baldelli Hunt didn't, at least at that time, understand what she had done incorrectly. John Ward is the former city council president, school committee member. How are you, sir?
I'm fine. How are you, Dan?
Good. Thanks for coming in. You filed the ethics complaints.
I did.
Is this sour political grapes?
No. This is, I think maybe in retrospect it probably would have been better if I'd have found someone with less notoriety to do it, because then it wouldn't have turned into a story about me.
Couldn't find a proxy?
I didn't look for a proxy. I saw something that on its face was just such a blatant violation of the ethics laws that my instinctive reaction was to simply do it, and I would have done it had I been in office or not. I mean, this isn't about me having lost an election. It isn't about me being on the other side of the equation. Just watch the video. It speaks for itself, and I filled out a form that all I wrote was violation of the nepotism regulation, such and such.
Yeah, we've got copies of the form you can put up there.
Here's
Steve,
the
if you
Hummel
want to,
report transcript, and there you go.
Yeah.
I don't know what else there is to say. It's not bitterness. It's just that's not the way we should run government. I've served in government for 18 years. I work in government for many years, and this is simply not the way we do business. And this is my city too. I'm a resident there, and whether I'm in office or not, I want to live in a city that does things on the up and up.
Well, what's
Does
the
it
matter?
the right
Don't you
way.
want to, listen, the kids are just cleaning the streets, man.
It's
You got a
not-
problem with that? You don't want clean streets?
It's not about the kids. It's not about the clean streets. As a matter of fact, last fall, when we were doing the budget, I said, as we're generating surpluses into the future, that was one of the first programs we should bring back, because almost every other community in the state has summer youth programs for kids working to help with the parks, help in the streets. And we had cut it back in 2008 and 2009 because we had no money when the state aid cuts came. And I had spoken to this issue last fall before I was out of office to say we should bring this program back. Unfortunately, it didn't happen in the spring, so at the last minute, the mayor put her idea
Well, she was
together.
moved by a bunch of kids at a function, some dinner, and they were saying they were in trouble getting some jobs, and so lickety-split, she went ahead and manufactured this. No advertising, no recognition to the nepotism clause, hiring. As small as the financial matter is, $5,700 total dollars spent. It is shocking to me that it's taken so long for her to ring the bell on why this is a problem.
Interestingly, I was just today attending a conference of accountants and auditors that URI Extension puts on with collaboration with the state, and the morning session that I attended was ethics in government, and they put them on. The Attorney General's office puts on open government symposiums, and there are ethics training sessions that occur, and you simply learn these things. And if you're going to be in government, whether in the General Assembly or in local government, this is the core set of principles that guide you when you do your business.
So when we come back, we'll talk about whether or not this is a window on a more worrisome world in Woonsocket, or if we just have a one-off problem. Stay with us.
I was thinking that it was a good idea to put some youth to work. And in retrospect, should I have requested that it be advertised? Yes. So, was that a misstep? That was probably a misstep. It probably should have been advertised. It was very late in the season. It was at the end of July.
That is the mayor of Woonsocket, who, by the way, was invited here, is very aware that John Ward, the former city council president who filed an ethics complaint against her, has been invited to the broadcast. And Lisa, you can come anytime and talk about this. That was on the radio program late last week. She gets the advertising part now, but she doesn't get the nepotism part now.
I can't make that judgment for her. She has to decide for herself how to follow the rules.
Yes, but as we're scoring at home,
you might
she
get
doesn't
that
seem
impression.
to want to recognize the nepotism problem. And she also said something which I thought was interesting. When I asked Lisa Baldelli Hunt about the hiring process, she said, "Listen, I don't have anything to do with it," and then she checked herself off. Listen to this. This is an edited version of our interview.
Didn't hire the youth. I don't have the authority to hire. I have just the authority to choose my directors, but my directors have the authority to hire. I did get a couple of phone calls saying, would it be okay if my son applied too? And I said, certainly. And I also directed my personnel department that if any other youth came in and asked for an application, that they were to actually take that application and hire them also.
So she doesn't have a hiring power, yet she has the power to tell others that you better hire somebody. She's a little mixed up and jammed up right now. Your thought?
My thoughts are, when all said and done, the person at the top of the chain is the one that's responsible for everything that happens down below. She is the mayor. The buck stops there. Whether it's a subordinate doing the hiring or not, she has some sense of control.
Are you worried about this being a larger problem in the city of Woonsocket? Is this a window, kind of a good bad break for the constituents to learn via the Hummel report originally that it's a little sloppy in City Hall right now, or do you think it's even one small thing?
I don't know if I'd characterize it as sloppy. I said on election night when I lost, I said that my sense of it was that we were going, instead of being back to the future, we were going to go forward to the past, because I sensed that there was this 70s style politics, this old school politics of patronage and doing favors for your friends, and it seems to have come to fruition. Now,
she ran on a fresh future.
Yes, and she's doing certain things that are very publicly visible and very nice and seem to be good things. But if you watch a city council meeting on TV and you watch the conflict and the constant bickering among the council members and the constantly asking the mayor for information that they're not getting, and the public information requests that are getting non-responses or vague responses, there's a complete shutdown of transparency and openness in the government up in Woonsocket, and even to the point of having the council at odds with each other. And it's become a very visible problem for the city, and it's not boding well for the future if you have your government at odds with one another all the time.
All right, so your ethics complaint will be reviewed, what, later in October by the commission?
Yes, I believe it's later this month.
They'll determine whether to take it on, and then you'll pursue it. I thought you were out of this business, but you know what? The business of fair play is everybody's business.
It is, and as I said at the beginning, maybe in retrospect, I wish I had let somebody else with less notoriety do this, because it wouldn't have turned into them showing up on this show and people calling for interviews. And I guess it's only because I was the council president, but I think it's every citizen's responsibility. And in the paper I was quoted as saying, I hope dozens of people file this complaint, because it should upset that many people and more that this occurred, and they should be willing to take that piece of paper and fill it out to get these things fixed, so that people can know what the rules are and go follow the rules.
Appreciate you showing up.
I appreciate the time.
John Ward, this story is not over. We'll follow it. Your state of mind. Stay with us. Your state of mind is important to us. This is how you get in touch with the broadcast. Simply leave us a voicemail or email us or tweet or Facebook post. Don't forget the E on York, or it won't go through. Here's an interesting email response to Dr. Dooley's appearance here on Friday night. He seems to be a stand-up guy, offered good arguments for the new URI Engineering School bond referendum. Listen, URI is a jewel in this state. $125 million feels like a big chunk of change, and I'm sure it's a little fatter than it would be if it was being built in the private sector. Be that as it may, engineering is a core curriculum there, a core economic driver, and I will vote yes on that referendum. We'll see you tomorrow at noon on WPRO and back here at 7:30 tomorrow night. Good night.